a playlist original.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaius and Jackson. It might not seem like to you guys where we haven't missed a beat with our episodes being released, but we actually haven't sat down in a decent amount of time, like probably about a week and a half now, where we've just been
Yeah.
busy and we've had some various issues, including internet, illness, phones going missing, a lot of different barriers. But luckily we had a pretty decent backlog. But Gaius, it's great to sit down with you once again. I wanted just to open up by saying the weather's getting nicer over here in Eastern Canada, which unfortunately, and I know I've mentioned this before, it usually this time of year eats into my watching. I don't get nearly as much in, and that is reflected on my Letterboxd account, unfortunately. But I've been watching lots of Game of Thrones lately, where I'm lacking in movies. But we haven't chatted in a minute, like on camera, and I just wanted to see what are you currently watching. I know you've been at the theaters a little bit, but what's going on as far as movie watching?
Also, just to let everyone know too, even though we haven't sat down in the week and a half, we are all very good at communicating as far as
yes.
This day is going to work. This day is not going to work. I'm sick. My internet's broken. My phone's
you
missing.
Name it.
Yeah, everything that could go wrong, But that's the good thing about us doing the show is that we always let each other know what's going on, and it's been good. I mean, we've gotten lucky with the news cycle and stuff that we haven't really missed a ton.
Right.
So that's good. And we're not so much like the So Wizard movie podcast. Like they always talk about how they've never missed a week, and I respect that. They are like way further along in their episode schedule than we are, and they have never missed an episode, I guess, like weekly live. And like even though we haven't really done that as far as like us meeting every single week without a gap, we haven't had a gap in episodes dropping at all. So at least we could say that. So even though we hadn't sat down and chatted, there has been a lot of stuff that's come out, and I'm so glad that we were able to do that because I now it's like a thing. Like I don't want there to be a gap.
No, we have a crazy streak going that we haven't had to break, luckily, and I don't anticipate that it will anytime soon. But fingers crossed, knocking on wood. Let's keep it going. Pat yourselves on the back. We deserve it. Yeah,
that's crazy. Like because sometimes there have been times where you'll be like, "Oh, I can't record this week," and then now it's like Wednesday, Thursday. And luckily, by happenstance, without even planning it, I was like, "Oh, well, I did a deep dive. I'll just release that." And you're like, all right, and then that ends up filling in the gap. So it works out either way. But also lovely to see you when I haven't seen you in a while. So
yes,
it makes the conversation 100%.
Like look forward to these. Yeah, absolutely. When we have a little bit of a gap, I'm like, oh man, I miss chilling with my boy.
Yeah, for sure. And it actually makes it more exciting to talk about this stuff because we haven't really sat down to talk about a lot of these things. So, and we try not to talk about some of these things offline, so it's more authentic on
exactly
the show.
And sometimes I don't even hear about some of the stuff until we get going about what we're going to talk about. Like a lot of this stuff isn't news necessarily to us, but there are a couple of things that we're chatting about today that I just haven't really taken the time to look into. So it's also a chance for me to stay informed, which I love.
Yeah. As far as what I've been watching, I'll be full disclosure, did not go to the movie theater on Memorial Day weekend, even though Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning came out and Lilo Stitch did. I had plans to maybe see Mission Impossible, but not that I don't want to see it, I do want to see it. The timing on see it has to be good because it's 2 hours and 49 minutes, and that's a long time in the theater.
Yeah,
so I know my brother and I talked about seeing it last Thursday night, and the earliest he could go was like at 9:30, and I was like, that's not gonna work because I was like, I don't want to get out of the theater that late and
at 1 a.m.
yeah. And then with Lilo and Stitch, I was like, I the reviews are decent. I heard from people that I trust that it's, I guess the best description was that it's cute, and I guess that's all you want from that, right?
But I was a huge fan of the animated original as a kid, and I forgot about that movie for like years. So I'm happy to see that the live action remake did well, and it killed at the box office.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things I didn't know about that as an IP, as far as like why everyone knew it would do well, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about this box office. But I also don't love seeing movies with a ton of kids in the theater. So I was like, oh, cool. What's a good time to go see that where there won't be a ton of children? And then I was talking to a buddy that was like, who saw it pretty late. Like he thought late for kids to be there. It was 10 o'clock at night, and he was like, "There was full of kids." But then I was like, "It's holiday weekend, so maybe that's why they were able to go." So I didn't see that, but I did see Final Destination: Bloodlines the week before, and
Nice.
that was I mean, it was cool to actually see a Final Destination movie in the theater again. There had been nice little gap between Final Destination 5 and this one,
14
and
years?
14 years,
Yeah, holy.
and it was a fun time in the theater, a very packed theater. That was hooting and hollering every time. I mean, it's so weird to celebrate people getting killed on screen, but it's all fun and like it's that's what the franchise is like made for now. So I mean, it was a really good time. Everyone seemed to collectively enjoy it. The Tony Todd scene got a big cheer from our theater, which is kind of cool that
Yeah.
everyone enjoyed that. That was really nice to see. I actually liked that they added the whole like kind of family dynamic into this one, where like
Okay, so that works for
it kind
you?
of traits it. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I mean, because like how much can you do with the franchise at this point? It's it kind of it's crazy that it's not really a one trick pony entirely, where it's like, okay, here's another one. This is how people fun and cool ways for people to die, and that's it.
Mhm.
It seemed like they were trying to do something a little different that changed the dynamic a bit, and I thought it works. And the opening premonition that was set in the past is like really really cool, and it was cool how they linked it into the present day story, and actually how um, the bloodline thing worked, where basically, even though they didn't reference everyone by name, but throughout the whole franchise now, like they were somehow connected to their family or something to this event that took place, back then, and that's where this all started. So,
Okay.
if you wanted to like, I guess, deep dive 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like there'd probably be some explanation as to these characters being connected to this big kind of
Neat.
cataclysmic event. And they actually made for Tony Todd's character, they gave him a connection that made him more than just having Tony Todd just appear as like a fun horror movie
Okay.
cameo. They
I've
gave
been
him like a
interested to see how his appearance in the movie like was justified, I guess, or like how they were going to explain why he popped up. But that
yeah.
is all the more poignant knowing that he's passed away since filming that role, and he's such an important staple of that
Yeah.
franchise. So I'm excited to see him in that.
And it was good. It was a good time, and I'm really happy that it's doing well, and we're gonna talk about that soon. I saw Friendship, the A24 movie with Paul
Oh,
Rudd,
with Tim Robinson.
Robinson, yeah, and
Okay, thoughts on that? Because that looks
it
so
it was
strange.
it was good. It's funny. It's like
Okay.
uncomfortable. It's uncomfortably funny though. I mean, there are moments of it that you get like extreme secondhand embarrassment.
I figured that
Because
would be like its gimmick.
yeah, because I think I mean, if you see the trailer and you thought thing from it, I mean, it really is about this guy who seeks out this friendship with Paul Rudd's character, and like almost like it starts out fine at first. You think it's gonna be like these two are meant to be pals, and then like there's just a series of like little events that there's like this not gonna work, and then like this person then is so devastated by losing this one even true kind of friendship he's made that he goes through these lengths to like maintain it that are so very awkward and uncomfortable. And I mean, I was really squirming. I watched it at home, but I was really
Okay.
squirming and like in my bed while watching it. I was like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. But it was so like well written though, and it was funny in like all the right places. And it kind
Right.
of like drove home that when you get older, I think it is hard to kind of start and make new friendships. I mean, like, because when you're younger, there's all the you have school, and then like and that starts young, right? That's like
Yeah.
middle school, high school, college, all
Or
that stuff. And
social events in
yeah,
general.
right.
Yeah.
And then so much, and then sometimes work, you're thrown in a position where you can make friends, but like when it's like new and you like, there's no like kind of common ground to for that friendship to start. You have to find other ways to do it, and the movie makes a good like point that it is difficult when you hit a certain age. And then this guy in the movie, he has a wife and he has a reasonably good job, but you can kind of tell that he had no sense of community. Like no one really knows him other than the people that he's already has in his life. So like it
Okay.
was, even though it was like kind of cringy and it was funny, it had a really good point too.
Okay.
About just about how difficult that can be. But man,
Tim
yeah, it's
Robinson's brand of humor is not for everybody. So I imagine this movie was a little bit divisive. I'm glad to hear that you liked it and that you thought it was funny, because I have seen a lot of his show on Netflix there. I think you should leave. And it's
yeah,
hilarious. But as much of a fan I am of him and his brand of humor, there's plenty of
yeah,
skits in that show that just fall flat for me and I don't find funny. But I think the show or the movie rather, Friendship, from what I saw from the trailer, I think it would be up my alley at least for the most part. So I actually I didn't realize that had already come out. So that will be one that I keep an eye open for. But I'm glad you saw it and enjoyed it at least.
Yeah, it was good, but man, it was cringy. I mean, like it's like because you're embarrassed, but you also feel so bad because like you could tell on like his end that it is a genuine effort to make this buddy and make this friendship kind of work. But like I won't give it away. I won't give away what the first thing that happens, but there is something where it's like, oh, like this that would be because it starts out so nice and like you're like, oh, these two might be able to be friends. And the first embarrassing thing happens with a group of the other guys' friends, and that makes it even more like, oh, you are not gonna fit in with us, kind of scenario. And I was like, you feel bad, but you're also like, oh, like you almost feel like you're there with him. Like this is not gonna go well.
He understands human interaction so well, and like he knows how to make things awkward and uncomfortable and make the viewer squirm. Like he just gets human dynamics so well.
Yeah. And the last two things I watched Hurry Up Tomorrow, thankfully at home.
Oh gosh. Debuted with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, I think.
And I think it shot up to 15. Ooh. I'll get the good out of the way. It's shot really well. Cinematography is amazing. It's a beautiful looking movie. I think directed well too. I mean, the director of that movie, he did what's the movie called? Was it Waves that he directed?
Trey Edward Schultz?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so like I actually like his stuff. And he also did that movie, I think It Comes at Night, I believe, with
yes.
And I love those. And
that
I
movie
thought
that
was
awesome.
really good. And so visually it's good. Jenna Ortega is very good in it. I know she's been in like 2 flops in a row with this and the Death of a Unicorn, but she hasn't been the bad part about those movies. Like I don't think Death of a Unicorn was bad. It was like that movie was never going to be a mainstream hit. It was like a weird
it was niche.
Before, yeah. And I saw a lot of articles written by why did she do this movie? I mean, maybe on paper it sounded like a good idea, and maybe The Weeknd presented something that was interesting and cool. And Barry Keoghan is pretty good in it, but his character is pretty underwritten. And
I have not heard a single thing about him in this movie, like to the point where I keep forgetting he's in it until I see promotional material featuring him, and I'm like, I don't hear anything about his performance in the movie, which I thought I would because of his status in Hollywood. He's one of the hottest young talents right now working. Jenna Ortega is great, which doesn't come as any surprise. But overwhelmingly, what I hear from this movie is that The Weeknd just can't cut it as an actor. I've heard it's like very self-indulgent in terms of like his career and him being this megastar, and like the movie really leans into that, and it just kind of came in poor taste. And then combined with his other project from I think last year, maybe 2 years ago, The Idol. Yeah, which was infamously like shit on by critics. Is his acting career dead in the water at this point? Do we think? Because that is a really rough start.
I think so. I actually talked to some people who did like it because there's this guy on X that loved it and was like thought that everyone else just didn't get it. And
Hurry Up Tomorrow or The Idol?
Yeah, Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And we mentioned in The Idol, and I messaged him, and because he's really good at being like pretty he doesn't get all mad when you don't agree with his takes on stuff. So I was like, I think the issue with this movie for me and what I've seen with The Idol is that like either he's playing a variation of himself in this movie or playing with a variation of his ego, which was The Idol. And honestly, Hurry Up Tomorrow is also maybe Hurry Up Tomorrow might be a variation of his ego as well. Like there's something about him that maybe he wants to translate on screen that he thinks is compelling to watch, and I don't see it. And this is someone that I actually like his music. I mean, I don't have
really talented.
Music at all. But there's some cringy scenes in this movie where I was like, there's a scene where he is acting opposite Jenna Ortega, and she isn't saying a word, and she's acting circles around him with just a look. Like she's conveying like a ton of emotion.
I've seen it. I think I've seen that scene online.
And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And the movie is like a part kind of surreal, like fantasy, and like part psychological thriller because Jenna Ortega's character kind of gives off these kind of Kathy Bates misery vibes. But it's only that kind of movie for like 15 minutes, and it switches back to being like a weird, surreal kind of like, I guess, like interpretation of his album, which is like, here's a companion album that went along with this.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of like, so I don't know if you've seen it, but Prince in the 80s made a movie called Purple Rain, which is not like perfect, but it kind of it really tapped into where he was at as a musician. And it is a really ego-driven movie, but it played to his strengths. I mean, he was playing a performer, and like it's loosely based on his life, but you know, it didn't ask much of him. It didn't demand like he need to be like Oscar winning actor by any means. And for what Purple Rain might lack for, like an emotional depth as far as like that's concerned, it's a pretty damn good concert movie. I mean, it's not like a stadium concert movie. They're playing gigs at like a local club, but like, you know, ask anyone about the Purple Rain soundtrack and they'll tell you it's one of the best soundtracks of all time, albums of all time. And
its reputation is definitely what I'm familiar with.
And those scenes like translate really well. The performance scenes of Purple Rain like will make you forget some clunky dialogue and not so great 80s acting. And it's just like, you know, it was perfect for its time. And I think some people have compared this to that, and they're like, the reason that worked is because there's still a bit of distance from what Prince was trying to do with Purple Rain. Like he wasn't really playing himself. And another good thing that Purple Rain does is, even though it kind of plays with Prince's ego, by the end of it, you know, the resolution for him and his band is for him to like relinquish control of this song, which turns out to be Purple Rain, and allows these two other ladies in the group, his guitarists and stuff, it's a song that they wrote in the movie, and that becomes his big kind of like, hey, it's not just me, it's also the band. So he gives up a piece of his ego in it, and it's not just him being like, this is my world, you know, everyone, y'all just living in it. And I think that's what helps. And I think with The Weeknd, I don't know if he has that. I think he might be a legend in his own mind. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I know people love his music. I like his music, but I don't know where I rank him as far as like, you know, as far as I guess being innovative that way. Like, we consider him like one of the greats working in music right now. I don't really know where we stand with it, and if he at that level to be doing a project like this where he can come off that self-indulgent and as if like he's the most important person working in the industry right now. So it was odd.
I get your comparison to Purple Rain, but like thinking about how different the music industry or the entertainment industry as a whole, even to generalize it a little bit more, is how different it is from it is in the 1980s. Like it takes not that it is easy to become famous by any means, but there are so many more famous people, so many more active famous musicians than there were at Prince's time, just because of like what social media and the smartphone has been able to catapult people into fame overnight. That I feel like it's harder for like The Weeknd as an artist to stand out and like be this caliber that like musicians previous have been able to do. And I feel like he's just not, like, you're right, he's not quite there. I think that like these self-indulgent works have really been like warranted for him. Like he is, I think he's a fantastic musician, like no doubt has a bunch of accolades and is probably a contender for one of the, you know, better artists working, but it just doesn't feel the same way as he would, I think, if he was like a 90s star. Like I think he would be much more famous in a different era where there wouldn't be so much competition. But yeah, I feel like he isn't helping his legacy with these last two projects. It seems like he's taking a couple steps back, and these have not gone over well, but that's gotta hurt for him.
Now here's the deal, because we all know how revisionist history works. Like years from now, they might start calling this a cult classic. Maybe people might discover it and see something that most of us didn't, and think that it's
possible, I guess,
like a misunderstood masterpiece. And I can see that being the case too. I mean, I didn't. A part of me, it's like, can I give it another shot and maybe look at it differently, not knowing what I was getting into when I watched it. I didn't know what kind of movie it was going to be when I turned it on. The trailers were good. I thought the trailers were decent for it. It looked interesting enough for me, trailer wise. It just, I don't know. Maybe I'll find it to be a misunderstood masterpiece when I watch it again. I don't think so. But yeah, like I said, visually great, directed well. Jenna Ortega, still no misses acting wise.
No, she's
She'll
great.
recover. She'll recover from
Yeah.
this because she's not the lead. She's just a supporting.
Mhm.
Those two articles I read about, like, oh, she's been in 2 flops in a row. Does that hurt her? But like, she had just come off Beetlejuice as well. And that was a big hit. So like,
Right.
every actor, some actors are just gonna have a miss or two in there.
No,
It's
yeah,
just normal.
100%.
But yeah, it definitely bombed. It opened at $3.3 million
Oh
on
man.
on the 16th and dropped 79% over the weekend. So
Yeah,
it'll be
there's no
gone.
coming back from that. Yeah.
It'll be gone before you know it. But I guess we could tee up some good box office news other than how no one saw Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Right.
Since we were on talking news in the last few weeks, I know we mentioned Final Destination Bloodlines. It had a $51 million opening weekend when it opened on May 16th. Biggest opening the franchise by far. Before that, it was the Final Destination that was the biggest opening at 27.4 million. That was the one that was in 3D, released in 2009. I forgot about that. That was marketed as like the last one, which is why they called it the Final Destination. I forgot that they said that was going to be the final
Back
one.
when that was like the thing to do in the 2000s with like legacy series, like there's the final chapter this, the final destination that, and very rarely did that ever like really remain the case. But yeah, I remember that was the one where like the poster was like the skull with like the rebar pipes going through it, and it was all the. I remember the marketing vividly. I was only young, but yeah.
And I saw it in 3D. It was a cool little hook. Oddly enough, people think that's the worst one. I was looking at people's rankings of the franchise, and like on almost all of them, it was at the bottom.
Okay.
I hadn't watched it in so long. I don't remember it being that bad. I don't think my standards are so high when it comes to each one of them. I did love seeing when the movie opened that a lot of people ranked the 5th one pretty high, and I know they really ranked it because I know they really rank it that high because of the ending. But I think that the ending, if anything, could say like I don't think the movie was bad by any means, but that ending is top tier.
Okay.
Like when you watch the 5th one, and you're like, oh, why are you on the plane? Like, oh, that plane's going to France. Like, oh, that's flight 180. Like, oh my God, they're tying it to the first one, and
it's
then you
hard
realize
to top that.
Yeah, and then you realize you're not really watching a sequel; you're watching a prequel. Really, like it's just like it was in the theater in real time when that was going on. Like you could feel everyone kind of just going like,
"Wow,
oh,
would have been insane." Yeah,
yeah. I did want to ask you. Already it's the highest grossing entry of the franchise, domestically at least. It has already already grossed 94.2 million domestically in 2 weeks.
Wow.
186.8 million worldwide. It's a smidge away. Oh, actually, it's only a little bit away from topping the Final Destination globally. That was at 187. So it'll top that within a day or two.
Right.
Probably going to make more than $200 million worldwide.
Almost certainly.
I want to ask you, what do you think? I mean, I know there's the gap may have helped because people were probably looking forward to it. I honestly didn't know people were as hungry for more from this franchise as this would indicate. I
certainly wouldn't have guessed. Yeah.
Lately, but like, yeah, what do you think? Why do you think it did so well? And
yeah, I don't know that I have. I mean, I will say the marketing was really good for this movie. I saw this trailer all over the place. Specifically, like I don't know what sequence in the movie it takes place, but like the lawnmower, trampoline, broken glass, like that was some really, really well edited trailer and sequence that I think the marketing, like any good marketing campaign, pays off. I think that was a factor. I do think the gap, 14 years though, like we're at a point where like longtime fans of the series probably showed up for this movie, but I feel like there's a significant gap of like maybe younger audiences that have come of age in that interim where they haven't maybe seen some, like maybe it attracted some new fans. Like I think this movie, by the sounds of it, like works as like a first entry for some people. So maybe it just like as one of like the first and more promising horror entries like of the summer season, like maybe people are just looking to get out. Hard to say. Like, I definitely didn't anticipate. Like, I wasn't under no illusion that this would like flop by any means, but I didn't anticipate that it would have like the strong opening that it did, especially for like strongest in the series, 51 million opening, like and get a top 200 million any day now. Like this is pretty pretty
has a
strong.
92% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think reviews helped, and I'm just wondering
Yeah.
what changed. Because someone, I don't know if you agree with this, but the highest rating Rotten Tomatoes wise is the fifth one at 63%. The rest of them are all rotten, various degrees of rotten.
I know.
Even the first movie has a rotten score. Someone said that they think there's more like influencers and less critics on Rotten Tomatoes now, and that's why
I
the rating is so
certainly
high.
agree with that. Yeah.
But are they now grading these movies on a different curve? Because honestly, nothing about, even though it's fun and they did try a few new things with the formula, there's nothing really drastically different about it from previous installments. So I'm just wondering why there is such a huge creative jump from like 63% to 92%.
Yeah.
And I know, and that night, Rotten Tomatoes is not a perfect science, right? It depends on how many reviews, and
Right.
like, you know, it's not like, you know, they're not giving it like a 92% A grade, but it's just like this many critics liked it versus this many didn't. But it is a big. It reminds me of when Saw 10 made was it had the best Rotten Tomato score of all of them, even the first movie. So I think there could be something there that they're more younger like influencers on Rotten Tomatoes rather than like mainstream critics who might not be as impressed with it. Or maybe they're just like, hey, this is what the franchise is now. We should just grade it on this curve. But I think you would do that before the sixth film, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm not saying it's bad by any means. It's cool that it's doing well, and
but that is a pretty significant jump in rating for sure.
Yeah.
I think you're on to something about like the demographic that lives on Rotten Tomatoes nowadays. I don't know if that's something that can even be like explored or proven, but like I do think there's something there.
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
happy for it. I'm gonna go see it probably tomorrow. Yeah.
Good for horror, good for the franchise. I mean, it is a fun movie. I mean, it got IMAX screens when it opened, so I think that helps too. It did pretty well on IMAX. So they clearly saw something, because like they went full theatrical with it, you know, did the whole like IMAX deal, I think, to have them for a week, and that was long enough for a horror movie like this. It's going to be one of the bigger success stories of the year. I mean, not that Sinners is still doing great, but its opening was better than Sinners by a little bit. So it's the best horror movie opening of the year. And I honestly don't know if there will be a horror movie that'll top it opening wise. I know we have a few more horror movies coming, but 51.6 million is a pretty hard one to top.
Yeah.
For that
I wonder
genre.
if, I know that this had the benefit of having like 5 movies before it, but I wonder if Weapons will, because I know that marketing is going to get a lot of people.
The marketing's been really good, yeah.
Summer, and I think if people lean into the, like, from the director of Barbarian, which was liked a lot, I'm wondering. I don't know, 51. It does seem like a stretch, but or even Bring Her Back, which comes out you're seeing here soon. I wonder if that. We'll have a strong.
You know, it's interesting because it has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. I know there's some people that I've thankfully I found some pages on X that actually track pre-sales and stuff like that, and they are pretty good at getting accurate like data on what is doing pretty well heading into the weekend. They said Bring Her Back is really interesting because everyone that's seen it has liked it, but they said it's very bleak. It's very like a very down horror movie.
That's pretty much in the same spirit as Talk to Me from their first entry. So I feel like if people like that, they might like this, and that's kind of like the flavor of horror these days, right? Like, when was the last like happy ending of a horror movie that did well, right?
Yeah,
like, I'm okay with that. Yeah,
I've been fine with it for a while, and like I see films like The Babadook, which some people don't like, but then like because they say it's also too depressing and too that and whatever, and same thing with like other horror movies not being like not necessarily depressing or anything, but stuff like The Witch, which is more critically acclaimed than like mainstream people liking, or Hereditary is another good example that it got like a D+ cinema score from audiences when it came out. Did well, but like some people don't like those kind of horror movies. But I think what I like about the genre now is that there's so many different horror movies that everyone is being fed well. I mean, you have a Final Destination one week, you have a Bring Her Back another, and they're all different. And
very much
Weapons is interesting because I know Barbarian has gained a bigger following since it came out.
Definitely.
People still want a physical release. I haven't got one yet.
I know, that's infuriating.
And the marketing has been very, very good. And I assume when reviews come out or when like early screenings come out, and just how and this is also Warner Bros. Too. I mean, they've been having a really great year, despite at least now they weren't in the beginning. They've made up for it in the last few weeks, but I think that might be the one that comes closest to maybe doing something. Oh, and there's also The Conjuring. There's another one coming.
Ooh, yeah, Last Rites. So, yeah.
Now it's hard to compare that because the last one had like a hybrid streaming theatrical release because of COVID. But those movies opened fairly well back in the day. I think in the $40 million range, the first two. So that's one that could maybe match Final Destination. But Weapons will be interesting to watch. I think it'll definitely open higher than Barbarian. I will say that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I guess people are just clamoring for more Final Destination. It's been like a while.
Yep.
It's interesting. I mean, I don't know. It's not. It wasn't promoted in like a legacy sequel kind of way, like Scream was when that came back. Or all right. Oh, like whoa, fuck. While we're talking about that, there's also I Know You Did Last Summer in July, so I don't know where that'll land either.
Yeah, and then Jurassic Park as well.
Yeah, I guess we can saw that like a horror. I mean, the trailer felt very.
The trailer's making it look like a monster movie. Yeah, which I guess like they all are. But
like a better Fallen Kingdom, like doing what Fallen Kingdom tried to do.
Should have done. 100%. I'm actually stoked for that movie. I know that I have no reason to be based on the last couple, but I'm a big Jurassic World apologist, and I'm excited to see the more like horror. I honestly I couldn't be more excited for it. I love the trailers. I know we'll talk about one later in the episode, but yeah, sign me up for that.
So I like how we're mentioning like, oh no, wonder what horror movies are going to do well like that. And like, oh yeah,
we have a lot to look forward to. Yeah.
And honestly, I speaking of I Know You Last Summer, if they promote that even better in the next over the next month, because we have a while till it opens in July, there is potential for that to really be big. Because I didn't realize how much people wanted another one.
Yeah.
And we'll see, but. I don't know. We say it every year. And like someone was like, I'm tired of them saying like they're surprised that horror is doing well year after year. I think that lately it's just been a consistent thing the last few years where these movies don't cost a lot. They make a lot of money.
And that's been the case. Really for a long time now. Yeah.
An easy investment, a bit of a more sure bet than most genres. So
easy to franchise. Yeah.
So good on that. I guess the bigger part of the box office story is from this weekend, though. Lilo and Stitch face off with Tom Cruise again, much like they did in 2002 when Minority Report opened the same weekend as the animated Lilo and Stitch, and Minority Report won by a smidge back then. The gap was much further this time around for the live action Lilo and Stitch movie and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I think the official 4-day number is 182.6 million domestic opening for Lilo and Stitch. That's the biggest opening of the year. It's the biggest Memorial Day opening ever. I believe that it's already grossed 361.2 million.
That's the last figure that I saw, which is
in
bonkers.
1 weekend.
That is crazy.
I mean. It's I think $1 billion worldwide. A little bit more is a guarantee for this.
Yeah.
What I didn't know about this, I love the animated movie. It's not what I've thought about though.
No, me either. Yeah.
I have a friend that loves Disney, from the theme parks to the movies, which I always make fun of them because I'm like, yo, you're an adult. I don't know how you can go to Disneyland as much as you go to Disneyland, but they have a season pass and all that stuff.
Okay.
But I did not know that Lilo and Stitch as an IP or brand, just a character, made a ton of money, a lot of money in merchandising since the animated movie. But even last year made a lot of money in merchandising without the help of this particular movie. Like the merchandising sales from this is in the billions at this point. So this is an IP or character that I didn't know was as popular as it was. I mean, they've been selling plush toys and lunch boxes and a bunch of other stuff. And so when I told my friend, like, oh, this is what it's making this weekend, they were not surprised. And I was surprised. I mean, I knew it was going to do well, but this was insane to me that it made that much money and that there was that much interest in it. There is an argument to be made that there's just not a lot out there for kids. So parents are taking them to go see anything right now.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm sure that factors in a little bit.
But there seems to be like a lot of love for the IP. So, I mean, were you surprised that it blew out the gate like this.
I was. If a few months ago on paper, I think we actually talked about it because this isn't the first time that we talked about Tom Cruise being up against Lilo Stitch at the box office, and I don't remember exactly my contribution to that conversation, but I wouldn't be surprised if I had a guess that the sequel to Dead Reckoning would have had no trouble against a Disney live action remake, especially considering kind of the track that they were following at that point. I know like things have kind of rebounded a little bit for the most part, but I never would have anticipated like that much of a blowout of the box office. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure every year since I've been on the show, the Memorial Day box office the record's been broken every year. Like it seems at least like we were every year that it's been better and bigger every single year, starting with like Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, so like I mean, and it's a good weekend to watch a movie because it's like it's like even though it's not officially summer, it feels like a big summer movie weekend, and also studios have been moving up the summer movie season. Like it feels like I think they said the first example. I think we talked about when we talked about The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. It was like that was like one of the first big examples of like, oh, let's open these movies a lot sooner, and like in May, and to kind of get the summer movie season started. But Memorial Day weekend has always been a huge one, and I guess this proves it. And like there was a lot of stuff out there for everyone. Even like the holdovers from like the weeks before, like Thunderbolts and Sinners and stuff, they were doing well too over Memorial Day weekend. So it's a good weekend for legs. I do think it's interesting, and I want to know what you think about this. Mission Impossible did have the biggest franchise opening of ever, $64 million over the 3 days and $79 million over the 4 days. And I know a lot of people love these movies. They do well. It's already made $206 million worldwide. It has a $400 million budget though, so that's going to be
steep hill.
For how popular it is, I'm always like the growth domestically is not that huge for how like much people love the movies, because like I think the 3-day opening was like, even though it topped Fallout, it wasn't that far behind it. Like it was like really close. So I was like wondering why there isn't a lot of growth on the domestic front, even though this franchise is talked about as one of the best spy action franchises.
Best, like longest enduring, like Tom Cruise is beloved in America. Did you say that this is a $400 million budget?
Yeah.
Is that like is that combined with like Dead Reckoning or something?
No, with Dead Reckoning, no.
That's like for this movie.
For this movie,
Holy fuck.
Yeah. And that had a lot to do with like, delays for various reasons.
Did they reshoot or anything? I don't remember.
They did a lot of reshoots. Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, it has an 80% Rotten Tomatoes, which is not the highest of these later
still
entries,
like very good rating. Yeah.
The only rotten one is the second one. I think it's a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes. So like, but I was curious because like it is, not that a $64 million opening 3-day is bad, and like a $79 million 4-day opening is still a record for the franchise. It just feels like for how good these movies have gotten since, I like the third one, but I'll say since the fourth one, I feel like that's when I think starting with Ghost Protocol is when this franchise turned into what it is now, where people were like, oh, this is actually really, really good. But it is weird that there isn't like a more consistent growth domestically when these open. And, like we haven't had one gross $1 billion. And I feel like there should be one in this bunch.
That is actually weird to hear out loud. Like obviously the franchise has surpassed that.
Done really well, yeah.
I feel like, again, though, it wouldn't really have had that capability until Christopher McQuarrie stepped into this series. Like I feel like if anyone would have had the potential to reach $1 billion, it would have been Fallout. Like that, I think is like far and above the best. Yeah. As far as like why hasn't this series like improved more domestically? Like you mean like why hasn't it had more legs like in subsequent weeks at the box office domestically?
Well, I guess even also like coming out the gate. Well, I mean, like when you look at this being a franchise best opening 3 days, it's like $64 million.
Yeah,
right?
You think it'd be a little higher.
I think Fallout had like 63 point something. So like that's not a huge amount of growth.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
I mean, they kind of like debut around the same range. They depending on which one, I think I want to say Rogue Nation is like the highest grossing one worldwide. I'll look it up right now, but like it just seemed like there should be a little bit more growth for like that's weird. Like, weird to compare to the Fast and Furious, but that was a franchise when it got to a point where it was like got to a point where people really were enjoying them. There was growth from for at a certain point from one entry to the next, starting with like I would even say, okay, I'll say the fourth one too, because that opened pretty well. And then between that film and the the eighth one, there was like a good amount of like opening weekend growth and final gross growth. Like it was just like it seemed to grow, and this one seems like it hasn't really grown. I guess it just has its fans, and that's it. Even though they said there is still like before this came out, they saw surges of like all of them on Paramount Plus doing well. They said the first Mission Impossible movie makes almost $10 million a year just from like being aired on TV and like all streaming and stuff. So I guess there's other money to be made down the line throughout the whole franchise from Paramount. But I would think with like them being rewatched and kind of rediscovered that they're like, oh, this one being promoted as like the final one, even though he won't fully.
That's the biggest thing. You'd think that people would be coming out to this one to support it, like with it being supposedly the final entry. I guess like I want to say like initially I'm thinking like, do people maybe like are there enough Tom Cruise projects that people feel like they don't need to go see him right away? But I don't think that that's necessarily the case. Like, yeah, he's been pretty active in other projects aside from the Mission Impossibles, but not to the point where I feel like people like are like sick of him or that there's too much Tom Cruise to go around. Like, I don't think that's why. I honestly, it's kind of perplexing to hear because I've never looked at these figures before. I would have assumed that that this series would have attracted more viewers opening weekend over the years, but it's surprising to hear that it really hasn't. I feel like a lot of the box office for these movies does come international. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you have the figures in front of you, but where these are globe-trotting spy movies, like I feel like they have, and like a lot of them take place in different countries. There's like global representation in most, if not all of them. Like I feel like a lot of the box office is international, so maybe there just isn't that big of a domestic appeal for these movies, I guess, as some other franchises, and the box office total like kind of gets obscured by international gross. I don't know. It'd be something worth deep diving for somebody. It sounds like it would make a great like article.
I mean, like, y'all don't hear like KS. Rogue Nation is the second highest grossing one overall, $710.9 million worldwide. That had a $55.5 million opening weekend when it opened the year that it came out. Also,
that's some good legs.
It also had a much smaller budget, $150 million. The highest grossing one. The highest grossing one is Fallout. I'm trying to see what they're saying about it right now. But yeah, they said that it's Fallout is the highest grossing one of the franchise. $791.7 million. Had $180 million budget. I mean, the last two ballooned mostly because of COVID and other delay.
Oh my gosh.
Dead Reckoning had a big budget too, and that had a lot to do with COVID and other stuff. So that was like out of their control. But yeah, I don't know. It seemed like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just overestimating it, but like, it just seems like a franchise based on like its quality and the way people talk about it that would have opened to like $80 million 3-day domestic period without the help of a 4-day Memorial Weekend bump, but it's kind of like laid in this kind of same range like throughout the later part of its run. And I'm counting from like Ghost Protocol till now.
Yeah, you're onto something because it just doesn't seem like that would be the course that these movies would take, but something is there. Like maybe looking back, like maybe they just opened against like other strong box office performers. Like I'm not sure when historically the Mission Impossible is like released like year to year, like what time of year, if like Memorial Day weekend was like their bread and butter release date, which is usually a competitive box office time.
I think the only one that did not do summer was Ghost Protocol, and they actually rolled it out slowly. Well, I guess slowly for a big movie. It had it opened like a small amount of theaters for that kind of movie ahead of like the Christmas holiday, and then exploded after that, and they expanded it. I think that had a lot to do with the fact that the third one, even though it got good reviews or decent reviews, didn't do all that well compared to the other two, and that had a lot to do with like Tom Cruise fatigue at the time, but that's when he was like jumping on couches and
he was
talking about Scientology a lot.
Yes.
So that had a lot to do with it. And the marketing for Ghost Protocol, and I think also the way that movie was assembled was smart because it didn't rely just on Tom Cruise alone. That is when I feel like that franchise became like, oh, this is a team. and like they made everyone else on his team interesting, and it wasn't just relying on Tom Cruise's image and star
Right.
power alone to make it work. And I think that's really, I think they started that with Ghost Protocol and carried that on through the rest of them. And then by the time we got down to the sequels that followed, like everyone forgot about Tom Cruise. Oh, he can be weird sometimes, and he just became like Tom Cruise, the movie star. And like no one really cares about his personal life anymore. It's just like
Right.
he just makes good movies. So like
He did
I
have this
think
like
that
inexplicable career renaissance, like around the time that this series kind of picked up, where people just kind of forgot about his personal life, and it's been kind of humorous.
And honestly, one of the I think only celebrities now that like I don't think anyone cares to know anymore about who he's saying, what he believes in. He doesn't really discuss that in interviews anymore and all that.
Just loves movies
like,
and making movies.
So
yeah, that's pretty
any other celebrity, there would be people like prodding about like other parts of his life, and I think he had that period, and then I don't know, he's been able to make people forget about like, and I think it is because his genuine love for cinema, and that kind of shines through above everything else.
And his commitment to stunts and stuff and making movies as authentic as possible. Like I think people just kind of latch onto that, which, you know, deservedly so. He's, you know, we're never going to see the likes of him again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. What else would you have done next on the docket?
Kind of negative, depending on how you look at it. But the next couple news pieces are kind of go hand in hand. They're both delays, starting with Avengers Doomsday, which was delayed from an original release date of May 1st of 2026 next year, so just shy of a year. And it got postponed kind of significantly, like over like 7 months, to it's now releasing December 18th, 2026. And I haven't really done any digging as to why, but like what the delay is for. But I think the bigger conversation piece around that is it will now be competing, and I have a theory about this. As of now, it will be competing with Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 3, which I'm interested in your take about which movie you think is going to draw out the bigger audience if they do stay competing with each other, because Denis Villeneuve and Warner Brothers have already moved Dune from competing with another movie. I can't. What was Dune 2 moved to March for? Or was it just a delay?
No, that had to do with that. Also had to do with the strike too.
Strike, right? Okay.
So then the actors could promote it.
So not necessarily because it was competing with something else, but it would have been up against Oppenheimer for awards, and I know everyone was looking forward to that award season battle, and we never really got to see it go down that way because it got pushed from an October release to March. My theory, and although I think that Dune has more than enough of a fan base, and the second movie in particular has proven itself that people will show up to support it, I don't think Warner Brothers wants to compete, whether or not they think their movie will top Avengers Doomsday or not. I think that those movies competing against each other, especially in the holiday season, they're gonna leech box office dollars from each other. And the Dune series already has a proven track record of succeeding in March. I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't love this. I'd rather it get bumped up than bumped back, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see sooner rather than later, we see Dune 3 postponed to March 2027. There's already a precedent. It would be competing for not just awards with another Nolan movie in 2026 with the Odyssey, but against Marvel like Titan with, I think it's going to be an Avengers movie with Robert Downey Jr. back in the driver's seat, which, although, you know, there's an argument to be made that the MCU is kind of like flip-flopping back and forth between successes and failures, I do think people are going to show up for Doomsday, and Robert Downey Jr.'s return to the series is going to be a huge part of that. And I wouldn't blame Warner Brothers if that's the strategy they go with. Like, I don't want Dune to suffer, and I don't think Warner Brothers wants to lose any money on Dune. And I think that it is, and I had this debate with Cam today. I don't love it that they're competing, but all that to say, I'm not even really sure what the delay for Doomsday is. If you have any insight on what they're saying it's delayed for.
The only thing that's come up is that Doomsday and eventually Secret Wars, because I got moved too because of this. Secret Wars is
another 7 months for that too.
Yeah, December 17th, 2027. That's actually my birthday, and the other one's the day
Oh.
after my birthday. So
right on.
The scale of the movies are pretty huge, and honestly, they're in production now, but I think they only started filming a month ago, if that. And depending on how long it takes to shoot, that means that's more like there's still months into like doing like post production, and like they would probably want to rush
production projects.
And they probably realized they couldn't rush it to get it out in May properly. So that's smart if that is why they moved it. I didn't realize that when they moved it until someone pointed out to me that was the weekend that Dune Messiah is opening. And then when I saw that, I was like, well, that's moving for sure. I mean, I can't see Warner Brothers being like, no, we're staying. I mean, and like kind of like risk the potential. Like the audiences are kind of maybe not necessarily the same, but like it's an overlap for sure.
There's overlap for sure.
And also that's gonna be a busy December. I mean, I think the 5th Shrek movie, not that weekend, but like in that December, and that December that comes out too. It's like a lot of stuff coming out. And December, this delay for the Avengers is not it moving from summer to this time is not bad at all, because December is a time when those movies have legs. I mean, Spider-Man No Way Home did well the December that it came out for Marvel. So there's legs to be had during that time, because people are at school, people are off work because the holiday, there are more people going to the movies. The question is, I agree with you, whether or not Dune moves earlier in the year, or does it go to 2027 and March, basically, when they open Dune Part 2 in that month when it came out. I'm thinking it gets pushed out more than it gets pushed forward. So but it's moving for sure. I mean, unless it'd be brave for Warner Brothers to keep it there. They got time.
It would be great. Yeah. Like again, I don't, because I want them to dig their heels in, and not I would rather, like, it's annoying to me that Marvel like fucking took Dune's spot.
Do that.
Like just because like I just think, I don't know, I believe in Denis Villeneuve, and like that's a flawless 2 movies he's made so far. Like they had that spot well in advance. It just kind of feels like not necessarily the bigger guy on the block, because I think they're both like going to be box office powerhouse movies. But I guess Marvel, like as a 30 plus odd movie series, kind of parking beside Dune and bullying it a little bit, like that just rubs me the wrong way. Like I want to see Dune like dig its heels in and then beat it at the box office, but like I just don't think Warner Brothers is going to have the stomach to compete with what's going to inevitably be like a massive box office draw with Doomsday. And I think it's a smart play. It is like part of me wants to, and I don't even want to consider Dune Messiah an underdog, but like I think time will tell, because like Dune Part 2 like killed at the box office. It was like already cemented as like one of the best sequels of all time. Like it had crazy legs. Like people talked about it all year. It performed strong at the award season. Like I think that it proved itself, but it's hard to deny like the impact that Doomsday is going to have. This is a movie that'll have been teased for like over 2 years of the time it comes out. Like there's going to be more than enough hype for that movie to like possibly edge out Dune Messiah. Not that I think Dune Messiah won't like perform well, but it could affect its opening weekend. And Warner Brothers has had like a history of, especially their last couple of years, like they've lost money on a lot of things. They've made a lot of money on some successful projects, but I don't think this is something that they want to mess around with.
Yeah,
but I'm interested. I like that you also agree it's probably going to move, but I wish it was.
I think it is. But I think if they don't announce anything between now and our new news episode, we can bookmark this. Like I'll send it to you, or however you want to do it. I'll look at like the schedule between like the 2026 schedule and up until what's scheduled to come out between that and like March 2027, and see if there is a spot earlier where they like, release it here, or does it make more sense to like there's nowhere they could put it earlier in 2026. And I understand why they put it in December 2026, because like again, it's a good month to release
a wicked month.
I mean, like, so
and especially when it didn't have a competition like that it would have been all for the taking for Dune. What I'm curious about is what is in like the fall of 2026 that they didn't originally slated there for, because Dune Part 2 was
Oh, do it
slated
like
for September
October,
originally. Yeah.
yeah, something like
Like
that.
that's
Yeah, I
still
don't
a
know.
strong box office month.
Yeah, and honestly, maybe this will all come down to like how fast he can complete it, how fast he can do post production, if it can be done in time to like release it a month or two earlier, and there's nothing on their docket that it's going to compete with, because like
Right.
Warner Brothers also has to not compete with Warner Brothers. They can't like they really don't want to release some of their movies on the same weekend. I mean, they've gotten
Right.
lucky, not
Oh
lucky.
yeah, that could be. Yeah.
They've been on a roll this year, though. I mean, a Minecraft movie came out not too far ahead of Sinners, and like Sinners needs to come out too far ahead of like Final Destination. So but they still have to like have room where they're not like competing with each other. So I for one, like I said, when someone pointed out to me, I was like, it's not going to stay on that December date unless they're just like they're feeling real confident
Yeah.
that they can keep it.
I think it would be such a great box office battle. Like it'd be like a Barbenheimer level, like
Yeah.
box office battle to see them go. Like I think it would be an insane box office weekend.
Yeah, what is interesting on the Marvel front, since this moved, they have no feature films to look forward to between the Fantastic Four First Steps, which opens in July of this year, and Spider-Man Brand New Day, which opens July 31st, 2026. So this is going to be a huge gap between no Marvel releases now, that since they moved Doomsday until like until the end of 2026.
Wow. Okay, that is huge.
I also wonder what this means for Spider-Man Brand New Day, because that was originally supposed to come after Doomsday. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in that movie that was like, do they have to change things up narratively, or like,
no doubt they will.
All right, will this be a standalone Spider-Man project? Like, we don't even know how much he is involved in Doomsday or Secret Wars, because they haven't announced his casting in that officially, Tom Holland. So I don't know what that means narratively, but that was another thought. I was like, oh, are they gonna do some creative rejiggering to kind of make this work? Because like, I don't know, but I mean, I guess like the cool thing about it, they are committed to these like not oversaturating the market thing. Like that's a big gap between movies for them lately, or any projects, I guess. So
I mean, for like I think like the entirety of the MCU, there hasn't been a gap that big.
Yeah. So I mean, Fantastic Four First Steps, that being like from what I heard, that it's expected to do pretty well. It'll do even better if like the reviews are good. But that is crazy to think that it'll be a huge gap between that movie and Spider-Man. Like it's like a year. So like it's like, I mean, like
I have trouble believing that the Spider-Man 4 won't have anything narratively tied to Doomsday. I feel like that is going to create a narrative.
And I wonder if that's something they have to like add in now at the last minute.
Yeah.
now that it's like coming out ahead of it, like, do they have to kind of like, because originally it was coming out after it, and who knows, maybe it was in the cards to move Doomsday long before. I mean, I know a lot of people were concerned about the started production, post production schedule, and then it coming out in May. Like they thought that wasn't enough time. But I mean, at least it's being moved because they feel like, hey, it's too big of a movie and we don't want to rush it. And that's rare for a lot of studios. Sometimes they want to back in the day, sometimes they wouldn't even care. They would have just been like, that we don't have enough time to get this done. And they're like, we'll figure it out. And I'm good that they're like, I'm glad that like studios are a bit smarter now they don't, I mean, these movies are expensive. I don't even know what the budget is on Doomsday and Secret Wars, but I imagine it's pretty insane. So they don't want to waste their money or leave any money on the table. So I get it. But man, I am curious. Like, I am curious about the Dune thing, though. I suspect it moves out, if I had to guess.
I think we'll be talking about this in our next news episode. Mark my words. I'm sure that we'll have some news about its release date. But you know what? Yeah. I would be a little bit nervous, but I would be more up for a little battle between those two movies at the box office. So we'll see. But I speculating that it'll get moved as well. But probably more I think you're right. It'll be more likely delayed than brought up, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But on the nature of delays, Antoine Fuqua's Michael Jackson biopic also delayed. I am seeing here on IMDb, it's in post-production, and this movie's been like in development for some time. IMDb has it as expected October 3rd, 2025. So my question is that
that's the old date now?
That's the old date. Okay, so it's gonna be
So the interesting. This was supposed to open in it was supposed to open April of this year, and then they got moved after that to October. And the reason for that was announced was they want to push it for awards because the producer Graham King also produced Bohemian Rhapsody, and that movie was a huge hit and was a big award season player. But then Lionsgate had their CinemaCon presentation, and the name of the movie Michael was not part of it, and everyone was like, "Why wouldn't they not have like their big biopic about one of the biggest music performers of all time? Why wouldn't that be presented there? It must be getting delayed." And the first story that came out was that they were delaying it to an undetermined date in 2026. They said sometime after their like quarterly like fiscal year. So they're like they didn't really give a date. They still don't have like a little bit more information on the exact date, but it'll be sometime in 2026. They haven't really said that yet. And then a day or two later, it was announced that they are doing 22 days of additional principal photography for the movie. So there's 22 extra days of filming for a film, according to Lionsgate, that already has a 4-hour cut that they've seen.
Oh my god.
One of the things that they said that became an issue, they said that the Jackson Estate and studio partners Lionsgate and Universal are still mulling how to move forward in light of a legal issue with the movie most likely being split into two parts. So that's one of the things they're going to do most likely is split the movie into two parts. And the legal issue was they said, while a script for a potential second film, it still needs to be finalized. The planned June shoot would be for the first film, kind of like do reshoots on that. While the term reshoots has been talked about, in this case, it's less about reshooting what has already been shot, but rather expand what was half a film into a feature length. They also talked about how there was certain legal stuff from the first child molestation case that he had against him in the early 90s. I guess part of that legal proceeding when they settled was that none of those names could be used in any type of production involving Michael Jackson's life. You would think that the Jackson Estate and the makers of the movie would have known that before they started shooting, and apparently they did use the person's name, and it was a big focal point of the movie, especially the film's climax. So they had to really think about how we're gonna like reshoot this and get rid of it without it being a legal issue. So I guess they're also doing that. I don't know how they're going to get around not talking about that case. Maybe they can talk about it without mentioning names. But they said the movie is not going to shy away from, the stuff that was controversial about him. And that was a big part of his, I hate to say downfall, because he did have hits and stuff after that. And a lot of people still think he didn't do it because they settled in the court for a lot of money. And the one argument on that is, if this guy really did molest your kid, would you settle out of court for a huge amount of money instead of seeing him like criminally prosecuted?
Right.
And then he had another case against him, and that lady turned out to be someone that was known for like trying to get money out of really famous people. So there's always been that kind of thing that hung over Michael Jackson, where did he do it? Did he not do it? But a lot of people didn't think he did it because of the circumstances in which those cases came about. Also, Michael Jackson, fantastic performer, great musical artist. That he had to grow up pretty fast. I mean, he started performing young. I mean, when he was running the Jackson 5, he was a child, and he never really experienced having a childhood. And
that's a whole other conversation,
thing, right?
Yeah.
And then when he became like a megastar, like he was kind of like an out of this world kind of megastar. And so there's that. And also, I mean, even without having to reshoot because of this, like, we can't talk about these people because of like legal reasons, because like we can't mention them, blah blah blah. He has a vast catalog and a big career, so I guess it all makes sense to, even with that, to split it into two movies.
Two movies make sense for sure.
Yeah, we're seeing this like a bit with like the Beatles biopic is getting 4.
True.
Sam Mendes
Is
doing
this
it
the
that
new
way.
trend of like the 2020s?
I guess so. I mean, in Lionsgate, I think the budget is close to, I heard, between 150 million and 200 million dollars for this, and that most of that comes
music?
to like the music. Yeah. His catalog
Not
is really
surprised there.
His catalog is muy expensivo, so it's I get it, but I know. Do you think that doing the whole like split into two thing is the right idea?
Um, I don't necessarily think that this would be like a trend that I want to see going forward. I feel like in exceptional cases, that could be the right play. And I think in the case of, as you already mentioned, like Michael Jackson's star power was unparalleled, I think, to this day. He would be one of
Yeah.
the few, I think it would make sense, the Beatles being another group where it would make sense to cover their career across multiple films, or even honestly, if we were to like scrap this and go back to the start, I would say a Michael Jackson biopic would
Yeah.
be more of a limited series sort of material. But if they're going to do it in
Oh, okay.
movie, I
Yeah.
mean, because it would make for a great like musical biopic on the big screen as well.
Right.
But that would be one way I think you could circumvent doing multiple movies. But I would love to see that. But yeah, no, if there's gonna be an artist, you're gonna separate their career across multiple biopics, Michael Jackson's probably the one that it makes the most sense for. So yeah, no, I think it's actually an interesting idea. It'll probably set a precedent. This will come out probably presumably before the Beatles biopics.
Oh
So
yeah. That's
so
true.
that'll kind of be
Yep.
like the first to do it sort of thing. Maybe we see this become a
Yeah.
trend for like megastars that get the biopic treatment. Who's to
Yeah.
say? But yeah, I think I'm not worried about it. Like I think that they're taking their time with it. It's kind of a red flag, like you mentioned, that they didn't know really how they could go about using that person's name with that whole rights issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting sort of conundrum that they're
It's
dealing with.
so
But
weird that like that's such a huge as the estate and as the producer, even I mean the estate should know this more than the producers, I guess, but the producers going in to make this movie, you think they would have all these conversations with the Jackson estate, and you would think that this whole legal issue of like you can't dramatize this portion of this other person's life who's involved in this story and you can't use their name, and like you would think that they would know that. I mean, like really be like
yeah,
before they go into filming this big budget biopic that they
like that's weird
would have
that that
would
this
have
was
dotted those I's and
missed.
crossed those T's, really. Like,
Yeah,
and it's so crazy that they didn't. But I mean, whatever. I mean, maybe it'll work out in like these, 22 days of additional photography and splitting the movies up is will work out for Lionsgate more.
hope so because
But
I want this movie to
it
do well.
seems
I'm
like a
excited for it.
really, I am too, and it seems like a really big thing to miss though.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I guess the only time will tell on that. I guess next we have Dwayne Johnson's career revamp seems to be continuing.
Yeah.
He's making another movie with A24 called The Breakthrough. It continues its collaboration with the production and distribution company following Benny Safdie's MMA biopic, The Smashing Machine, which opens in October. In The Breakthrough, he's actually taking on a supporting role in it. He's not even the star. He's going to play a morally questionable motivational guru whose charming ways conceal darkness and a dangerous agenda, according to Deadline. And the other role is going to be it describes an alien, a young man who falls under his mentor's spell. And the film is written by Z. Goodman here on his feature-length writing project after mainly focusing on acting, with his filmography including roles in I Know You Did Last Summer TV series and the Cruel Intentions TV reboot. So this person who wrote this is actually
Okay.
an actor first.
Oh wow.
But I know it sounds interesting. It sounds so much different from all the stuff he's done, and I guess good for him for continuing this kind of invention of his acting career.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
It seems like the stuff he has coming up next, I mean, is this, and he's doing the Martin Scorsese thing with Leonardo DiCaprio and Emily Blunt, and now he has this on his docket. I haven't heard of like the typical like Dwayne Johnson projects being pitched or being like announced. So maybe he feels like he
Not
has
since
to
like
do this,
Red Notice. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm here for this like revamp of his career. I guess we haven't really seen any of these outings yet since he's sort of pivoted away from like the typical Dwayne Johnson action role to more like serious dramatic stuff. I guess the
Yeah.
only look we've really had is the trailer for the Smashing Machine, which again like paints his career in a completely different light just in what we see from that trailer. He looks great in it.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, like, even though none of those movies have been released yet, I'm excited to keep getting news about different projects that he's setting up. I honestly think that like he's had enough losses, like critically at least, with like some of his last outings, and I feel like it's kind of taken a toll, and he's ready just to explore a different part of his talent and career. And honestly, I'm all for it because I've never been outside of like the Fast series and maybe some 2000s one-off action movies, I've never been like a massive Dwayne Johnson guy, and I'd like to be. Like, he's very charismatic guy, and I think he's got a lot of potential. But his projects that he kept lining up, like from like 2012 to 2024, every movie he did, I just never appealed to me. And aside from maybe
shaking
like
your head,
yeah, just like, again, really, and he's become a meme at this point for continuing to do those sort of things, and I think he's just had enough. But yeah, I think this one sounds interesting. I'm really excited for the Smashing Machine, especially it being directed by Benny Safdie. That's going to be huge, I think.
I guess the one thing that he has that might be, I hate to call it, I don't think it's like a typical Dwayne Johnson movie. He did do a voice in Moana, and they are doing a live action version of that comes out in 2026. So that's kind of like a little bit more mainstream on his list. But like the rest of the stuff seems like I don't know if he had this discussion with himself or his producing partners or whatever. That's like, it seemed like after Black Adam, and maybe because he's already signed on to Red Notice, that's why that would seems to be like the last thing that he really did. I mean, and that movie did well enough, I guess, according to him. He said it did well on Amazon. I know it didn't make a ton of money, like when it theatrically. It did decent, but it had a huge budget too. But there had to be like I guess come to Jesus thing about where his career stands now and what he wants where he wants to be headed. And honestly, if the Smash Machine does well and he gets good reviews for it, people like that kind of story too. I'm sure that'll be a big award season story if he can push it that way. I mean, it seems that's where he's headed. So
I never thought I'd be having this conversation about Dwayne Johnson. But he seems to be making the right moves. So, you know what, all the power to him, and whoever's on his team helping him navigate his career post, Black Adam, I guess we'll say. It's a good news story to see him like consistently getting these like good, decent, intriguing roles. And I wish the best. I'm excited to see everything that he's got lined up that's coming down the pipe. I'm excited for. So I'm really excited to see what Martin Scorsese is able to get out of him.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting too. I'm really looking forward to that. This one, so this next story, I thought of you when I saw it.
Okay.
Because it very much like, just because big Christopher Nolan fan, and like he keeps pushing the boundaries with IMAX. And a lot of times with these IMAX movies, especially using like the 7mm stuff with the cameras and everything, certain scenes are shot in IMAX and for the IMAX effect. And he was like kind of the proponent of that. And Ryan Coogler did that with Sinners.
Right.
But I guess to kind of top that, and he's the only one that can. It was announced that the Odyssey is going to be filmed entirely on IMAX cameras. And my first thought when I heard this though is, I guess like this can be adjusted for other formats to show it in other theaters that don't have IMAX. So I guess that won't be an issue. But I was like, how much? Because how certain theaters like everyone doesn't have an IMAX.
I don't. There's only a handful in the world.
Yeah, so I was like, I wonder how that's going to work. But maybe they figured that out, because I know they wouldn't leave that much money on the table if they couldn't figure that out.
Definitely not.
But Richard Gelfond said how this came about. He said a year before Chris started filming the Odyssey, he called me and said he wants to make a whole film shot with IMAX cameras. And then they said that couldn't be done for a lot of reasons. There were lots of issues. But Nolan told him, I'm going to give you a challenge. If you can figure out how to solve these problems, I'm going to make Odyssey 100% film on IMAX cameras. It'll be the first one ever. And that's what they're going to do. I think a lot of it has to do with like dailies and getting those out at a reasonable. It's like a lot behind the scenes, which is why it's not entirely feasible to do it, but apparently they figured it out. They said other issues include reloading film stock, galley sounds, and the timely re will actually get dailies. But they said they're going to rise to the challenge and do it anyway. And since he is their, when it comes to that format, he's done really well for them. So I guess that's why they're like, we'll do it. And and I think that's if anyone's going to do it first, it's going to be him. So, and by the way, he's the only one that like they're going to see. That's why I think it's interesting about this. Like, this is being offered to him once they talked about it, and they're not just going to do this for every filmmaker right now. Like, let's say a director was like, I want to do this too, and they're like, they're almost going to see how this goes, and then like see like what other directors are interested in doing it. But they think if this comes out, it does well, it looks great, other directors will want to do it, and they'll be able to work out deals with them that also work out for their end of it too. So I think it's cool that he has this much pull with them.
I know his relationship with IMAX is literally like almost exclusive at this point, and how much they trust him and how much like leverage he has with them. I am a little bit like, I don't want to say, I'm not embarrassed to say, but this was a revelation for me. I admittedly don't know much about the IMAX shooting process. I know that he's been working with IMAX since at least The Dark Knight 17 years ago.
Yeah.
I had just kind of assumed in this amount of time, when movies are shot on IMAX, they are entirely shot on IMAX. I'm only now kind of just realizing that's not the case.
Like, say like some scenes, like, but they'll be
like,
I
didn't know that. Yeah. So this is pretty fascinating to learn.
Yeah, because I think you'll see, like, sometimes we go see movies like that, like, especially scenes that were shot specifically with IMAX cameras. Sometimes the aspect ratio changes for the movie when you're watching it. So
okay,
that's how you'd be able to tell sometimes. Sinners did that too. There's only like a handful of scenes of Sinners that were shot with 7 million, like for the.
I didn't know, and I didn't notice while watching it that if there was change to the format. So that's, my eye didn't pick up on that. That's something to keep in mind going forward. That's pretty neat. I can't wait to the day when I watch something, like, I've never seen a movie on an IMAX screen. So
yeah, it's kind of something there are everywhere. Like, I mean, like, I feel bad when I
will be
you, and you're like, oh, we don't have one.
Yeah,
it's but I think it's something that's growing each year, though. I mean, it seems like that format's getting bigger and bigger.
The closest one to me is in our neighboring province in Halifax, Nova Scotia. There is an IMAX theater, so that's 4 hours from where I'm at, and I will be there. I'm seeing Nickelback play in Halifax at the end of June, and I'm going up with a buddy. And I don't care if he comes or if he stays behind, but a few hours of my trip will be dedicated to seeing whatever's playing in IMAX there. What it is, but.
That's so funny because, like, this isn't like even movie related, but you say you're seeing Nickelback.
Yeah.
Nickelback got brought up over the weekend because one of their songs came on while we were at a friend's house. Like, they're playing music videos from the YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think anyone likes Nickelback on purpose. And the whole room like turned against me. I was like, oh, okay, never mind. I guess
they used to be popular to hate, but they're Canadian legends.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, it's it's been joked about here too for many of the years. I grew up listening to them. My dad was a fan, and of course I've been a fan too, like for literally as long as I can remember. But yeah, there was a time period where like everybody like just hated on Nickelback, whether it was like genuine or not. It was just kind of like a popular, funny thing to do. But no, like, I think they've kind of been looked at a little bit differently in the last few years, and like their status as a Canadian like legendary band is definitely something like worth talking about. But yeah, I'm really excited to see them, but it'll bring me close to an IMAX screen, which I'm happy for. Yeah, so it'll be an exciting weekend.
Nice ulterior motive to do it. Yeah,
definitely. That's funny
because Chad Kroeger has that like song that's in the Spider-Man soundtrack. That's the only one actually, and it's not really a full like Nickelback song. I like that song,
right? But Hero.
There are other stuff like they'll come on. I'm like, oh god, this is bad. But like, I'm the only one that feels that way. I thought everyone was like on the same page as me, but then they're like, oh, they're not that bad. And then like,
they've got something like some truly endearing songs that I love. Like Photograph is great.
I know that was that was the one
2008.
Photograph came on. That's everyone. Like, Photograph was the one that came on.
Yeah, it's hard not to like belt out that song. But their 2008 album Dark Horse is like an all-time for me. And the album is insanely good. But I'm very excited. I never thought they'd come up on our show, but
I don't either. I put them in the same like basket as like Creed. We're like, nope, not for me.
Like divorced dad rock sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's a few Creed
kind of like very
their music does sound a lot similar, but I find that's the case for most rock bands, and that's like my favorite genre of music. So
that was our brief segue into being a music podcast.
It won't last long, but I will be updating you, and I'll probably send you some videos of how awesome their set will be. Stay tuned to that.
Yeah, I will make you like them.
Yes. Just wrapping it up here, just a couple more things. Last really new. This isn't much news at this point. There's hardly any info available, but I just heard this today and thought it'd be worth sharing. And there's nothing even available on IMDb yet, but Damien Chazzelle, I believe as of now, still the youngest Best Director Oscar winner at the time that he
I
won
believe so too.
for Whiplash. Whiplash or La La Land?
Or
He won for La La
Land.
Land.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still, anyway, like as far as I'm concerned, he is 4 for 4. He's made incredible movies. Babylon, his most recent entry from 2022, I think criminally underrated, forgotten about, lambasted. I don't know why. The movie's
That's gonna
amazing.
be a cult classic, though. I think.
Yes, I think we've had this conversation on the show before. He's incredible. So at his next movie's reportedly in development. There's nothing on his IMDb page about it yet, but Daniel Craig and Cillian Murphy are both being rumored to be attached as like co-leads for. Apparently, all we really know about it is that it's going to be a drama centered like in prison.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. And I think that's exciting enough. Like I've been waiting for some sort of development for his next project since Babylon, which that's like 2.5 years old now, and there's been nothing. But yeah, I'm really excited to hear about that. Have you heard anything else about it that I maybe haven't? Or
all I heard is that if they signed them on, that the production could start later this year. And I think this is also significant that it's a Paramount Pictures movie, and like a lot of people were like, "Well, they want to work with him after Babylon because they made Babylon and that didn't make a lot of money. It only made $60 million worldwide on an $80 million budget." So a lot of people thought that like they'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna this is ourselves." Like, you know, you have one flop and they think that that's it. But clearly they still want to work with him, and you know he has a first league deal with the studio. So like it's cool that they still want to do that. I thought he was doing a biopic on about Evel Knievel. That was another thing that he was supposed to be attached to with Leonardo DiCaprio. But I actually heard that DiCaprio may have dropped out of that, which is why he's changed his attention to this.
Okay. So, that's disappointing. I remember hearing about that, but didn't know Damien Chazzelle was slated to direct that. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So this I mean, I like the idea of casting those two. They're really good actors, so I'm excited for that. I also been wondering what he's going to do next. So I really am just excited for what was coming from Chazelle and like in general.
Yeah.
Because I actually
he's one of my favorites.
I've liked all his movies. Babylon is a big bone of contention with some of me and my friends. There's a faction of us that loved it and another half that did not. It leads to a lively debate often about. I thought that would change as like it's been years since the movie came out, but now people that don't like it still don't like it in our group.
I get it's a self-indulgent like Hollywood glamorized movie. If that's not your thing, then Babylon might not be for you. But like, if you're in any way a fan of the industry and movie making in that time period that it depicts, and just strong movies in general, Babylon is incredible. And I can't believe it didn't do better than it did. Like, I think again, you're right. We'll be talking about this movie for decades to come. But oh well.
So since there's very little information about that movie, that's all we got. Those two names being attached, and once we find out more, we will let you know. But I do like the idea of them being in the movie together. That's awesome.
Yeah, pairing I never really thought of, but I'm down.
Yeah. Next up, we got movie trailers. Only 2. Usually we have a lot more, and they're
usually we do.
But this one's interesting because I didn't even know this trailer was coming. But it's for Caught Stealing, from Darren Aronofsky. And it stars Austin Butler, Regina King, Zoe Kravitz, Matt Smith, Leah Schreiber, Vincent D'Onofrio, Carol Kane, and Bad Bunny. I did not realize Bad Bunny was into. I guess I did see him in the trailer. I guess I didn't really pay attention.
I didn't know what he looked like.
Reading that was weird. Sorry. Bad Remy is a big, like, I guess, reggaeton rapper. I'm trying to figure out the best category to put him in. He's a musician.
He's like a Latino.
Yeah.
Right? Like big in South America. Yeah.
He was in Bullet Train. If you
neat.
For anyone looking for stuff that else he might other than his music. The premise is a former baseball player finds himself immersed in the criminal underworld of New York in the 1990s. The first thing I thought when I saw the trailer, which I thought was good, it just doesn't look like anything else that Darren Aronofsky has done before.
That was my first impression as well. Yes, I was like, this is not.
It looks like by way of like Guy Ritchie or something. Like, I don't know. Like
more humorous.
Yeah.
And any of his, he makes like
more
mainstream depressing movies. Yeah, I'll agree with that as well.
It's based on a book by Charlie Hudson, who also wrote the screenplay too. So that's usually pretty good when like someone who wrote the book also writes the screenplay. It keeps it honest to the source material. I don't know, it looks good. It just looks way different from all this other stuff. I'm also impressed that Austin Butler is also an actor who seems like it can do anything at this point. So that like he's like probably one of the better actors to be like watching for right now as far as like
Definitely.
what they do next. I don't know. What did you think of the trailer when you watched it?
Again, like was really surprised. Like this didn't seem like it had any of Darren Aronofsky's like signatures to it. I was like, this looks like bold and different for what we're used to seeing him do. Like the look of everyone. The cast is stacked. Matt Smith looks incredibly wacky.
Yeah. Does he look
I
like
am
himself, dude?
seeing, yeah, he looks crazy in it. It is interesting. IMDb has like its first genre is listed as a dark comedy, which I'm like, I'm all
Yeah,
for that because it's not something we really see from Aronofsky. He makes like very poignant, like deep and often like disturbing human dramas. This doesn't
yeah.
seem like it's really any of that. So I'm interested to see him sort of pivot a little bit. He's an unsung hero, I think, like a underrated. I don't know. Yeah, a little bit, maybe in the mainstream director. Like I really
Yeah.
like Aronofsky, but I sometimes neglect like to mention his name when I'm thinking of like some of the best like new age directors. Like he's not missed for me. And then he most recently directed Brendan Fraser to an Oscar win for The
In the
Whale. I think that
whale.
was 2022. That movie was amazing.
Yeah.
So this looks like very different from that, where The Whale was like a very quiet, one location human drama. This looks like it's going to be everything that that movie is not. So
Yeah.
interested to see him. And before The Whale, it had been a few years since Aronofsky had done
What, Mother?
anything. I think it was Mother in 2017, which is quite the
Yeah.
gap. So glad to see him still churning out movies. And this one's expected August 29th, 2025, which
Yep.
is great. Another great summer release to look forward to. And I will be there catching this one.
Yeah. I think it'll be good too. And the last trailer is the second trailer for Jurassic World Rebirth. After seeing this, I think this might be one of the biggest movies of the summer. I mean, I guess I should. It's so funny, like, to do this show now when we track movies from when they were announced. Like, you've been on long enough to like.
Right.
We talked about this movie when it got announced. We talked about it when Scarlett Johansson got attached. We talked about it when Gareth Edwards got attached. So it is.
Yep.
And during all those times, and when when Mahershala Ali became attached, and in each of those times, we were like, all right, that's intriguing. I like that, but I don't know
but
because
cautious. Yes.
yeah. Because that last one, I almost fell asleep during, which is
And
Dominion,
I
which is
didn't bother to see it. And I won't because I know everything I need to know about it.
yeah. I was not at all interested in this, but the two trailers that we got, and I liked how the first one was like a little bit more of a teaser. They didn't give away a lot, and I don't really think this one necessarily gives away a lot, but it does kind of indicate that I think they're leaning towards more of like a horror, like making it I mean, because this is a scary idea. I mean, I don't know why it hasn't really been like explored that much. And even if you watch like the first Jurassic Park thing, there are scenes in that movie that like I think I was watching Bravo one time when they used to do that 100 like scariest movie moments, and like the Velociraptor scene was like listed on there, and like people actually were like, that's a really good like horror inspired scene. The T-Rex scene is also the first one from the first movie. It's pretty
Yeah.
frightening in its own right. I mean, like
That scene is incredible.
so there's shades of like horror, at least when it started, and then like they've all kind of adapted to like kind of like adventure kind of movies, and then with Jurassic World, that revamp with like Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, then they're kind of playing up that the comedic kind of like banter between them, and then making it like a fun like adventure film
Yeah.
for kids, and like it was always kind of like had a lot of different, I guess, genre elements to it. And I know they tried, I think, to do this with Fallen Kingdom. I mean, I think that's why that second half of that movie that's in that mansion, I was like, this feels like it wants to be a horror movie. Just not that good. I don't know. It was
Right.
I don't know. This seemed like they were trying to get that right. And I actually was very impressed with the second trailer a lot, because I think it introduces some good, interesting ideas, and I actually love that this cat. I love the cast. I think it's so cool that Scarlett Johansson has. Interesting that she's been wanting to do one of these movies forever.
I know, and it's been very outspoken about wanting to be involved in the series. Like I love it that her dream came true. I think she'll be great in this. I like the trailer a lot as well. I'm very much looking forward to this, as I mentioned earlier in the episode. I agree with you. It wasn't too spoilery. I do think that they were eager to show a lot of like the big set pieces of this movie in the trailer, which I'm like, I could have used maybe a couple surprises. Luckily, they don't like spoil I don't think any like big character deaths or anything like that. So
Right.
I think it was for the most part like 80% restrained. But yeah, it
Yeah.
did show a lot of where like we'll be going in this movie. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm really excited for it. And just
And
something
some like newish dinosaurs that might be
yes. Oh my god, that's gonna be so awesome.
yeah. And also, I mean, Gareth Edwards is a good choice. I mean, like he did the 2014 Godzilla. He did of the newer Disney Star Wars movies. He did Rogue One, and I think that's the only great one of that bunch. I mean, I would even call
Yes,
that
that
movie great.
movie's sweet. Yeah.
It's really good. And then the creator, which I finally saw
Oh,
after you had saw it, after
yeah.
you saw it after,
I
yeah,
was
was
big on
also
that
very good.
movie. Yeah.
And honestly, I think he, because of all that, that's why they gave this to him. And like, Spielberg's producing it. The writer of the original movie wrote it. I mean, there's a lot to kind of look forward to with it. And
Yeah.
I think we were so like not against it per se, but I wasn't excited about it when they announced it. However, they did put in like a few breadcrumbs of casting and other stuff to like
Mhm.
be like, well, that's intriguing. I just don't know. I think it's good that it's not going to be, involving the story that we've been used to with the other the three that came out before this one. Like, that's cool that's done, and they're going with
Mhm.
new characters and all that. I don't know, I'm looking forward to it. I didn't know I would say this. I other than Lilo Stitch, I know we have Fantastic Four and we have Superman, and I think it depends on how good the reviews are, and
Mhm.
all that. I think other than Lilo and Stitch, it could be the biggest movie of the summer
Yeah, it's
financially.
shaping up to be that way. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad guess, and I hope it does really well. Because I would like to see more of this series like done right. Like I'm glad that
Yeah,
the first Jurassic World like trilogy is kind of done with, and they're kind of pivoting a bit.
yeah,
And it's gonna be lengthy. It's 214 as well, PG-13.
yeah.
Yeah. I hope it does well too, because I'd like to see kind of more Jurassic Park movies in the vein of this.
I
So
know we
fingers
sound like
crossed.
we sound so fickle. We're like, oh, why are we getting more of these? And then we're like, oh, well, if you do it right, then
If you do it
we'll,
right, I feel like
we'll take
there's
a bunch of them.
2.5 movies, or sorry, no more than that. Like considering, I know that you're not crazy on the second one,
No.
and then Jurassic Park
I'll rewatch. I
3.
might rewatch it. As like in anticipation of
Let's
this.
let's say
Uh,
3.5 movies in this series are not so great, and I feel like there's a
yeah,
lot of room for improvement in it. But again, like just to see dinosaurs like done so well, like
yeah,
visually on the big screen, like it's always going to be entertaining, if not fantastic cinema. But
yeah,
I feel like this is the potential to kind of bridge the gap a little bit. So hopefully, if any
yeah,
case, I hope it's scary. It looks great. Like the dinosaurs look incredible and frightening, and
yeah,
that's all I really want. One looks like a xenomorph kind of, and I'm all for it.
yeah. I was on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like bring it on.
yeah. And it opens on July 2nd, which is like a nice little. It'll be opening during the whole like 4th of July holiday
Hmm.
weekend. So it's a nice time to open it. It's
Big
crazy.
time.
It's not getting any IMAX screens because those deals are already done in advance. The IMAX screens are going to F1's going to be getting them. So
Mm,
is Superman, and I think Fantastic Four has a little bit on IMAX. So like a lot of people were wondering why would a movie like this get it, but like these deals are all made at a certain time, and there was no
yeah,
room for it to have them. So there was no room between F1 and this coming out, and then Superman and Fantastic Four. So it's not going to need them though. It'll be on other premium formats like the 40X and all that. It just won't be on
oh
the
yeah.
IMAX screens. And I don't know. I'm saying now. I think other than Lilo and Stitch is going to be it'll be the highest grossing movie of the summer.
Well,
I got to add
mm,
those caveats in. If the reviews are good and people, I mean,
yes.
honestly, reviews weren't even good for the last one. That made $1 billion. So like
Yeah, true. But that could
it,
have like maybe undone some good like rapport for this series. Like the time will
yeah,
tell if people are going to come back to
yeah,
see
and they
this
did
that didn't like
have the
that.
hook of bringing back the original Jurassic Park stars. They had that hook
Right.
too. So there's that. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
man.
that wraps up everything we had planned to discuss
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
Glad to have thrown some news your guys' way where it had kind of been, I guess, a little bit of a break for us. Maybe not so much for the episode count, but a couple of weeks
yeah,
gap for news there. So we got that all filled in, and nice to see you again. And we've
yeah,
got some anniversaries to tackle here soon. So our watch list or schedule, I guess, is about to get a little bit busier in the month of June, which as of recording,
yeah.
we're the 28th now, at least in my part of the world.
Yeah. Jackson's in the future right now. Yes,
That's right.
It's 8:38 p.m. my time, and like what 11 something. How far ahead are
12:38
you?
here. Yeah, 4 hours ahead.
12:30, 4 hours ahead. Yes, so it's now Wednesday where he's at. But yes, that is episode 240 Back to the Blockbuster. We tackled some news for you. Actually, we're all caught up on news now with this episode, so that feels good to
Yes.
like be ahead on the news cycle. As always, if you like what you hear, you can listen to us on Good Pods, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. But also check us out on the Playlist Studio app. They are a podcast network, and they're doing a lot of great things for us behind the scenes. The show's evolving. We'll be able to share more very soon, but we're excited for it. We can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That'll be growing more as well. You can find that under the handle Back to the Blockbuster. And yeah, it was good to talk news with you. It had been a little bit of a gap. I think that's why we get excited to talk news when there is a gap, though. Like
I know,
it's like riding a
100%.
bike. We're really good at this. So yeah, thanks for talking news with me, buddy. And we do
Of
have more
course.
episodes coming down the pipeline. So a lot to look forward to on Back to the Blockbuster. And yeah, always a good time, my friend.